Good afternoon, everyone. Andrew Wilson back again. I'm your host for the day, I guess. I'm Programs Manager for the Supply Chain Sustainability School. So obviously working very closely with National Highways. Clearly we're halfway through now the Meet the Buyers event, so I hope your meetings have been going well if you've had one-to-ones, and I hope you've also benefited from the previous scheme presentations that we've done during the morning. We started off with the North region, and we've come down the country to the Midlands later in the morning, and now we're in the Southeast, and we're going to hear from two major projects in the Southeast. The first of those is a JV managed project between Volker Fitzpatrick and Balfour Beatty. So I'm pleased to introduce Courtney Cross and James Dinmore and Richard Gibbs from Volker Fitzpatrick and Lee Barker from Balfour Beatty, who are going to contribute and collaborate on this presentation for their scheme. Following that, we're going to hear from Graham. Gareth Scott at Graham is going to be joining to provide information on their scheme on the M25, Junction 28. So Courtney, James, if I can leave everything with you, if that's okay. And I think Richard's driving the slides in the background, isn't he?
That's fine. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Courtney Cross. I'm the project director for the Balfour Beatty Volker Fitzpatrick joint venture. The project that we're discussing is the MTB Junction 9. The contract was awarded for the full stage 4 and 5, 6 and 7 with a notice to proceed, but I'll go into the details. The budget is 205 million. The project's currently a stage 4 and 5, which is a DCO and detailed design. And then the stage 4 and 5 is a lump sum. Stage 6 and 7 is a option C. Effectively, the scheme is based in Winchester. It's on the M3 at Junction 9. The need for the scheme and why we are there is to construct free-flowing links from the M3 onto the A34 to facilitate the Department for Transport's expansion of the port. So we're providing free-flowing links from the M3 going northbound and southbound. We're also creating 4 traffic lanes, and to facilitate that, we're constructing quite a few new structures. Richard Gibbs is going to give you some detail on that. The scheme includes a 120 meter long underpass under the M3, a couple of another underpass under the A34, and then the reconstruction of the gyratory bridges at the Winnell roundabout, which is at the junction 9 on the M3. The scheme is also, the aspiration of the scheme is also to increase the biodiversity in the area, and that's the inclusion of conversion of chalk grassland and the construction of new pedestrian, cycleway and horse riding facilities. So where we are, our DCO submission went in the 21st of November. We're expecting a decision from the Secretary of State on the 17th of May. Then anticipating a notice to proceed on the 3rd of December. Our current start of works is planned early January 2025, and then we'll work to an open for traffic on the 17th of December 2027. So effectively construction duration of 3 years, with the overall completion date March 2028, and then after the maintenance works, which will take us up to 2031. Next slide. So what we've done to date then, effectively we've gone through the survey period, we've validated the design, we've now established a federated model, we're working through our DCO. Examination will end in November this year, which will put us in a better position. So we then work into our notice to proceed governance period, and for that looking to agree the TOC in April submission. So we're currently working with our permanent works designer Stantec and our temporary works designer Usens. Hopefully, and we'll be in a position to agree our target submit our target in April. Just before I hand over, it's also worth mentioning we're also delivering a £80 million project on the M27 Junction 10, and that's looking to start works in April next year. This is a national highways asset conversion, but it's for Hampshire. The aspect of that job is very similar to the M3 Junction 9. This mass earthworks, FRC works. We're looking at a box slide at the end of next year, November 2024. FRC works is the bigger element within that package. The street works, drainage. Next slide. And I'll just hand over to Richard to give you a feel for the works.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Richard Gibbs, and I'm a senior project manager on the joint venture. So today, bit of repetition of what Courtney's just told you, but we started engagement with some contractors to support the detailed design. So we've been talking to piling suppliers, earthworks contractors, formwork and reinforcement contractors, and steelwork suppliers. A lot of work has also been coordinated with ecological or ecology specialists to help us manage the dormice and badgers that are prevalent across the project and have to be relocated before works can start, and also the construction of the temporary compound as it's on the border or within the South Downs National Park. So our principles are that we are going to have an open and honest bidding process. So we want all people to come in, and we're open to the bids that are going to promote the best value for the scheme. And as it says there, a diverse mix of tenders would give us a better idea of what's out there and get a better support for the project. Program to date, Courtney went through this. So the DCO was submitted in November 22 and it was accepted in December 22. There's regular meetings for the development consent order, and that's been tracked with National Highways and ourselves and the Stantec team. And we're currently in the examination period. So we're going through, we had our second tranche, and there's more following up in the next few weeks to close that this stage out. There's a lot of integration with Natural England, Environment Agency, an awful lot with South Downs National Park, because this scheme is predominantly within the park. So there is a lot of questions of the scheme and how we can benefit the national park and work with them. Of course, Winchester City Council and Hampshire County Council, and we're working with them to get statements of common ground so we can develop not only the national highways to OD, but also the where we tie into the local authority areas. As I mentioned, we've got the examinations, and there is a flow of information that's responding to the relevant parties, and these hearings started on the 16th of May. As I said, the examinations are ongoing and they will conclude in the middle of November. Hopefully, not hopefully, we will get a decision from the Secretary of State, a positive decision by the 17th of May. And as Courtney said, that will lead us into a start of works on site 13th of January 2025. Stage 5 at the moment, we've been carrying out ground investigation surveys, surveys of the drainage, topo surveys, etc., and we're working through the pavement surveys. But due to abutting roadworks, smart motorways work, we're just waiting for access for the final section, and we'll get that survey works completed. Alignment and design is progressing well. Looking at pavement drainage structures. So they're all being detailed design concurrently. And with the design team, we're carrying out the buildability reviews, reviewing to make sure we've got structures or elements of the work that we can build safely and economically. And AIPs are with the TA for their review. I think there's repetition here, so we'll just skip through this, but we're currently looking through the stages of work. So sorry, there's not repetition, apologies. So start works in January, and we have to do the archaeological strip. So a number of diversions, narrow lanes out, and with the view that we'll start our first earthworks in the spring of April, April 25, and also commencing the gyratory bridges in June 25. Phase 2, M3 underpass, which is a top-down construction on the M3, and demolition of the gyratory bridges over the M3. Phase 3, tie-ins to the M3 because it's realigned with 2 additional lanes for the through junction running, and open the new routes to traffic, and that allow us to divert the A34 and get into the final phases of the scheme where we have to build the balancing ponds for the drainage attenuation, and then finally NERTS commissioning and open for traffic on the 17th of December. That's a high-level plan of what I've just described. So, what are we looking for the support of the team? So there's approximately 375,000 cubic meters of earthworks, cut and fill, of which we estimate 25% will require modification because it is too wet to be placed into the structural embankments. Now, these locations are to the east of the scheme, the first phase, and this is a cut operation to the north and fill to the south, and then the gyratories to open up for the new structures, north and south, or east and west rather. And then third phase is into the west side when we get into there. And then the final phase is the excavation of the ponds. Formwork, reinforcement of concrete. There's approximately 14,500 square meters of formwork, a mix of F1 and F3 finishes, which incorporates 3,350 tons of rebar and 14,000 cubic meters of concrete. And these are in the gyratory abutments, the new builds, and of course the decks. And then the significant concrete is the M3 underpass, which is approximately 120 meters long, and its deep is about 12 meters deep, the top-down construction. And then the A33 underpass, which tie in. So this is a very busy area of the works for the FRC. We have six pairs of brace beams to form the gyratory structures. 45-meter span. One span is slightly wider, 13.5 meters to the south, and that's to incorporate a footpath, and the span to the north is approximately 10 meters wide. And then this is a GA of it, just slightly wider there for the footpath on this, so it's 10 meters on the other. And then we have a new footpath bridge over the River Itchen, and that is a walk-through truss. So we're looking for contractors to deliver that. Precast concrete, there's an element of precast concrete to be provided, and these are subways around the gyratory. Because of the new alignment, we have to put new subways in, and they're all a similar type of build, 4 meters wide, 3 meters tall, with precast wing walls, and they are around the gyratory. And then there's a fourth one which links the new link road to the industrial estate, and that links Winnell to the South Downs National Park. And then finally we have around 121 meters of retaining walls. One of the runs is precast retaining walls that links into the underpass, and then final phase we need to put a long retaining wall here to separate the new A34 alignment. There is an element of spray applied concrete, and these are within the underpasses, so approximately 36,000 square meters of spray concrete, and this is through the underpasses, so the M3 again and the A33. We need to talk to people about this because there is a requirement that the first 25 meters or so need to be a finished spray applied concrete and not as applied, so we need some guidance on that. Lastly, we do have sign ground trees. The majority are MS4, of which there are 8 in these locations along the scheme, and then there is one super span gantry which is just to the south of the gyratory, and that is again approximately 45 meter span. In total, concrete supply to include the piling, we're looking for around 26,000 meters cubed of piling. The gyratory bridges are on piled foundations, as are the MS4 gantries and the superspan gantry, but the 2 underpasses, which are both top down, there is a contig pile wall, so we're talking in the order of 250 linear meters of structures, so 500 linear meters of contig pile walls. With the pile cages, approximately 5,350 tons of rebar, and surfacing wise, there's nearly 55,000 square meters of new build, and then approximately 75,500 square meters of inlay, which is predominantly around into the A34 and the new gyratory bridges and the side roads, and into Kingsworthy on the A33 alignment. So that's me, and I'll hand over to James.
Thank you, Richard. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is James Dinsmore. I'm a managing surveyor on the JV. Richard, if you'd like to just flip over to the next slide. I'm so glad that it's actually uploaded well. A big part of our strategy for the commercials is part of our subcontracting engagement. It's a big part of the framework for those that know it well. It's a big part of our obligations to National Highways to bring suppliers in to work with them through a kind of early contractor involvement stage of the job, which gets us to the total of the prices, and then hopefully stage 6 and 7, the construction stages of the job. So a very brief overview of the commercials. The scheme contract is an RDP framework contract. Stages 4 and 5 will let us a lump sum, as Courtney mentioned earlier. We then have a period of time of around 18 months, of which we're a third of the way through roughly now, to build the prices for the total of the prices submission in April 2024. During that process, we'll be engaging with suppliers of the various different packages, complexity and values, some of them in a more traditional ECI sense than others, but ultimately the aim and the want being to confirm our quantities with our designers and confirm our rates, and anything that might have impact on those rates, be it constraints or program requirements, access, resources and these sorts of things. So early involvement has always been a key part of our strategy for getting to stage 6 and 7 and total the prices. Very briefly, the subcontracts will be JV amended RDP NEC4 options A and B mostly. We may decide that an option C may be preferable for some of the larger packages. It's open for discussion, and of course there'll be those professional services contracts where it's applicable to be. There's a novation clause in the subcontracts which will novate all rights and responsibilities, or other rights and obligations, to the JV subcontract. As this contract was originally let to Volker Fitzpatrick, it will be subcontracted to a JV of Balfour Beatty Volker Fitzpatrick. Payment terms are exactly as you'd expect, very preferable, 31 days, and there are KPIs that measure us on those. So if we want to keep our KPIs up, you get paid quickly, which is always a good thing. There's no retention, and X18 is possible again via negotiation as we prepare the subcontract documents. Just to go back to the IFT preparation, IFT is National Highways interim forecasting tool. It's the budget that builds up to the total of the prices essentially, and this is a big part of our job, as I mentioned earlier, moving forward. There's pre-qualification set for subcontractors, as you would expect there to be, including construction line gold requirements. The insurance covers obviously need to be adequate. Financial checks will be carried out. Any specific accreditations which are specific to the works packages and the trades employed, those will also need to be held and or vetted. And of course, then there's the health and safety and the various AFR statistics, which are a requirement as part of our due diligence. Richard, if you wouldn't mind just flipping over the page, please. Richard? Thank you. Excellent. So there are various documents that we use to inform our total of the prices and our IFT document. Those range from design trackers for quantities right the way through to change correspondences, and ultimately we will be requiring subcontract involvement to help us work through this process. What you see in front of you now is our snapshot, if you like, from our current budget to give you an idea of the package values across the scheme. They're listed there in SHW series, so if you want to take a moment, you'll know which one probably jumps out at you depending on what your individual trade disciplines are. The larger packages are there highlighted in red. So earthworks is the first significant large package we have, obviously paving, drainage and general groundworks, structural concrete, and the traffic safety management. So as part of our prelims packages of approximately 10 to 11 million pounds, a big part of that is in the traffic management in the TTM. So these help us focus on which packages we need to engage early, along with programme requirements, along as where those packages and experience and competence within those packages to the delivery of that will inform our programme. And these are the reasons why we're engaging early with the supply chain, and we're very keen to have any discussions which will help us inform and build our programme in the most efficient way possible. Richard, next slide, please. For us to identify which of the ECI packages, and I won't labour on this because I know Lee will want to discuss it, I don't want to steal his thunder now, to enable us to identify which packages we need to focus on, we use various procurement strategies and considerations. This one you see here in front of you just identifies the key requirements of what each package might bring to the scheme, whether they be detailed design, whether they be programme critical, whether they be methodology critical. And it's just the way that we'll produce a red, amber, green, a RAG basis of how and when we start engaging people. The detail of this isn't important, but it helps inform us of who we need to talk to and when. We're very much about the meetings and the discussions and bringing people to the table with the information that we have. So this is really secondary to how we make decisions based on where the benefit of those discussions can derive. So again, we're very keen to get in front of people and welcome them into the project office to discuss how we can work together on this scheme. I think that's it for me, Richard, if you wouldn't mind just clipping on to the next one. And we've got Lee to talk us through the procurement strategy. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, James. My name's Lee Barker and I'm procurement manager for the JV. Thank you, Richard. That's the slide. We're just starting at the moment to get into the procurement strategy development and the kind of packaging strategy for the job. So there's four kind of key areas really around the procurement plan on this slide to talk through. It's a very busy slide. I won't go through it word for word. But so in terms of early engagement, James has already kind of sort of mentioned that we're looking to get people on board and engaged early, particularly for the key packages, so the likes of the earthworks and the FRC, surfacing, etc. Certainly getting people involved early, contributing to sort of design ideas, challenging constructability, etc. So we're going to put a big focus on that area in the coming months. Supply chain partnerships and productivity and performance. Once we've got people on board, performance sort of scoring and management is going to be a big part of the project. We'll look to score our suppliers on a minimum quarterly basis. Certainly with the more strategic packages, and we'll be looking at doing that on a monthly basis. We've got, you can make it out on the box on the end there under tactics, we've got utilisation of Jagger and construction line. I'll come back to that shortly, but we've got a system called Jagger where we carry out all of our performance scoring for our projects, and that gives us a whole load of data, monitoring various areas and various disciplines within the project where we can monitor performance and help us hopefully generate sort of efficiencies and increase productivity, which is a big drive for us at the moment. Building new relationships and strengthening existing ones. We will have obviously packages, subcontract packages, etc., materials where we've got existing suppliers who we'll look to use. I think Richard alluded to it in his presentation as well. We're also looking for new suppliers. We've got targets to hit in terms of local spend and SME spend. We're very keen to hit. So if there are any people who are sort of attending at the moment who are local to the area, really looking for people to get involved, I'll give you my contact details shortly, and we really want to hear from you. And the last sort of row there, the last line, maximising blue pound spend, this is really about, I suppose, transparency at the end of the day. We've got two businesses within the joint venture in Balfour Beatty and Volkers, who both have internal capabilities which they will look to use within the project. The kind of initial thing that springs to mind is piling. Both businesses have piling businesses that they will look to use and more than likely will use. So really that's just a case of we'll use those businesses. If there's people within the supply chain we can plug into the supply chain further down, we will, but again, that's just about transparency and let you know that that's what we'll be looking to do. Next slide, Richard. Just to mention about Jagger and also Construction Line, our minimum requirements for accreditation in terms of sort of material suppliers and for professional services, we look for a minimum of Construction Line associate level accreditation. So that's our red line. And in terms of subcontractors, we look for Construction Line Gold accreditation. So that's what you would be needing to get onto our supply chain. Jagger is a portal you may not have heard of. I mentioned it before. Jagger is a portal that we use. It's an e-procurement portal. So we use that for issue of our RFQs. So we issue inquiries via the portal in order to receive quotations and submissions back from the supply chain. It consists, when we issue an RFQ, it will consist of basically 3 sections. You've got a qualification section, a technical section, and a commercial section. So we will issue information out via those envelopes, ask various question sets, etc., where we want information from the supply chain. That will come back to us via the portal. All of the communication through the tender process is done via the portal to keep everything in one place. And so everything is transparent as well. And then when submissions come back, they get scored by the various project disciplines on health and safety, on the technical input, on program, and on commercials. So it's an open and thorough process that we conduct. As it says there, we've still got a lot of tendering opportunities out there for people to go at. The key contact on the project for the supply chain is myself. My email address is there. Please use it. Email me. We'll collate any information that comes in, and as we work through the strategy, we'll look at the requirements and come back to you as and when we can. And that's it for me.
So that is the last slide. So I'll stop presenting then, Andrew.
Yeah. Is this, Andrew, where I see there's a couple of questions in the chat.
Yeah, by all means, if you can answer those, just feel free to have a look as Gareth and Eleanor are speaking about their scheme, if that's okay, Courtney. And we can all get together after that as well if there's anything outstanding. Thanks for the presentation, guys. A lot of detail there to get through. Really appreciate it, and hopefully that's been really useful for the supply chain partners who are part of the call. I'm going to pass across now to Graham, to John Graham. We've got Gareth Scott, who's going to present details of their upcoming scheme, M25 Junction 28. And I think Gareth has also been joined by Eleanor Clark, who is part of the team as well. So Gareth, I'll let you control your own slides, if that's okay, and give it a whirl and see if it works.
Yeah, okay. Thanks very much, Andrew. Thanks everybody for giving me the opportunity today to chat to you guys. I'm Gareth Scott. I'm a procurement manager for Graham for their highways work. And today I would like to talk to you about M25 Junction 28, a really important scheme that we have that's currently live. It's been live for a while. We've been on site really from March 22. So we do have a developed supply chain. A lot of our strategic packages were actually procured back in 2020, 2021, and those people have been on board with us for quite a while. But out with that, there are still opportunities on the scheme. So we would like to tell you more about it and sort of show you where we are. Location-wise, we're at a really busy intersection, and that's between M25 and the A12. And location-wise, we're talking between Brentwood and Romford. So there is more detail on this. I'll not go through everything exactly here on the map for you, but needless to say, this is a super busy junction. At peak times of traffic, you could be talking up to 7,500 vehicles per hour. And predictions for the future are not great. We're talking an increase of around about 40% by 2037. So look, it's a very busy junction. Journey times can be inconsistent just because of the buildup of traffic. So part of our challenge is to obviously make it safer, number one, but obviously build capacity for this really busy junction in the southeast. So as I say, location-wise, we're between Brentwood and Romford. It's on the border of the London Borough of Havering and the Brentwood Borough Council. And Junction 28 is a major improvement project planned for the southeast region. And connectivity-wise, we're looking at Essex and London and connecting Brentwood, Chelmsford, Colchester, and Suffolk with the rest of London. So the objectives, and these are going to be similar for everybody, I suppose, you're talking to today. Improving connectivity that we just talked about, easing that congestion, a lot of vehicles at peak times, and building that capacity then for the future. And some of this work involves the creation of 2-lane loop road. That's sort of a hard shoulder for all the traffic travelling from M25 northbound carriageway, anti-clockwise, onto the A12 eastbound carriageway, and that's towards Essex. And some of the works include construction of new bridges, and that's going to take the loop road over or under the other road links in the Wheelbrook, along with new signage and changes also to the landscape. So a really important major project for us at the moment. And one of the big things that we talked about from day one was reducing disruption to the motorist. And how do we do that? And how do we reduce the construction impact basically on that junction? So we put a lot of work in at the front end, and what we've been able to do is carry out the majority of the construction work off the network, with the new loop road and links being nearly complete before any work takes place that's going to impact the drivers on the network. So work on the scheme is expected to take around about 36 months, and we're anticipated to complete on the project summer of 2025. And last but not least, obviously the major objective is to make the safer network for everybody and increase that capacity for the future. So I've kind of been through a lot of this here. As I say, we've been on the job for a while. We do have a fair few packages already let on the project, as you can imagine, but there's still some opportunities in the next 6 to 12 months. First on the list there is drainage. That is, if you're a drainage person, please ring us, contact us. That's being priced at the moment. So if you come to us quickly, we could send you a package. Coming up with sheet piling, curbing install. We're always open to new plant and machinery hire and people contacts in that field. Road markings, street lighting, motorway comms, right the way down there, as you can see, signage, pavement, landscaping, and traffic signals, etc. So what's already been procured, as you can see, some of the more strategic stuff like the structural steel, the bridges, they were all procured in 2020. Ground improvement, etc. Piling, we knew where we were going a long time ago. So those opportunities are gone. But it's not to say, look, we always need to talk to new people. So look, even though these packages are gone, look here, there's no harm in dropping us a line anyway for future projects. That's the way we look at it. So how do you get involved? Look, it's myself and Eleanor who are involved in Junction 28. We're probably the best contacts if you want to get involved in that project or other projects in that region. So yes, please drop us a line. We'd like to talk to you. As far as the procurement process goes, we have introduced some new things to Graham. We now manage our supply chain with some software called Local Supply Chain. That's how you will receive your tenders. That's how you'll respond back to them. That's how you become approved now on the Graham supply chain. And we have introduced a supplier maturity questionnaire, which is an attempt by us at the front end to assess where you are in your journey regarding things that are important to us. Obviously, health and safety, quality, social value, carbon reduction, all of the usual stuff. And we are running a two-stage procurement process where we are going to select the top two, shall we say, out of a bunch from stage one. You'll be heavily weighted on quality in stage one, with stage two being more commercially focused. But our hope is that we can build a stronger supply chain, and we want to bring people on the same journey as us and be focused on the things that are important to us on national highways going forward. So, look, thanks very much, Andrew. That's me finished, basically. I'll hand back over to yourself, if that's okay.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Gareth.